You can't hire someone to do your push-ups for you. That one line says it all. If your life is going to change, you have to be the one to change it. No one can do the work for you. No one can make the decisions, build the habits, or take the action you've been avoiding. And that's exactly why this video exists. Not to hype you up for a few minutes, but to show you the truth. Clear, direct, and practical. You've got more inside you than what you're using. You're not tired. You're unchallenged. You're not lost. You've been distracted, and you're not behind. You've just been avoiding the responsibility that unlocks your real strength. Today, we're going to break that pattern. In the next few minutes, we'll walk through the steps that separate those who wish for better lives from those who build them. This is about personal responsibility. It's about self-discipline. It's about becoming someone who's no longer impressed with talk, but only impressed with action. So if you've been holding back, if you've felt stuck, if you've been drifting, this is your moment to lock in. You don't need more time. You need a decision. You don't need luck. You need a new standard. Stick around until the end, because we're going to uncover what's really been slowing you down and how to finally break through. This is how you unleash the power within. Let's begin. Number 1, discipline is the foundation of power. Discipline is the foundation of power, not hype, not energy, not luck. If there's one truth people avoid but absolutely need to hear, it's this. Without discipline, nothing in your life will ever reach its full potential. You can have dreams so big they keep you up at night. You can write out goals in a fancy journal, listen to motivation all day long, and tell people how badly you want to succeed. But if you don't have the discipline to follow through day after day, all of that desire means nothing. People love to hear about breakthroughs. They love stories of people making it big. But what they don't always realize is that every breakthrough came from years of discipline, years of doing the hard things, even when nobody was watching. Most people want power, but they avoid the path that leads to it. Power doesn't come from doing what's easy. It doesn't come from waiting for the right time. It comes from doing what needs to be done, even when you're tired, even when you're stressed, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is what makes that happen. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting, but it's real. And the truth is, the people who look strong, the ones who seem confident and in control, they didn't just get that way by accident. They trained for it every day, quietly, relentlessly. They chose discipline over comfort. That's why they look like they've got it all together, because they earned it. You can't build anything meaningful without discipline. Whether it's your body, your mindset, your relationships, or your career, it all requires effort. You don't always feel like giving, and that's the test. That's what separates people who make progress from those who stay stuck. Discipline isn't just about doing the hard work. It's about doing it when you're tempted not to. It's choosing to show up anyway. When your friends are out relaxing and you're still putting in the work. Discipline. When your body wants to stay in bed but you get up early to train. Discipline. When you're tired of hearing no, tired of seeing slow results, but you keep going because you know the price of quitting is higher. Discipline. Most people underestimate what they're capable of because they haven't given themselves the opportunity to be consistent. They try something for a week. They expect massive results overnight. When it doesn't show up, they stop. Not because they're weak, but because they never learned the value of staying the course. That's what discipline teaches you. It teaches you patience. It teaches you how to delay the short-term highs for the long-term wins. It teaches you how to build trust with yourself. And that trust becomes power. Because when you trust yourself to follow through, you don't need external motivation. You become your own motivator. You become someone who doesn't just hope for results, you expect them because your actions have earned them. People love to say, "I'll do it when I feel motivated," but motivation is unreliable. Some days you'll have it, most days you won't. And that's where people lose, because they wait for motivation instead of training discipline. You need to act regardless of how you feel. That's when you know you're growing. That's when you know you're becoming powerful. When you take action not because you're in the mood, but because it's who you are now. Discipline builds identity. The more you follow through, the more you start to believe in yourself. And that belief gets stronger each time you do what needs to be done, especially when it's uncomfortable. It's not about being perfect. It's not about never messing up. You'll make mistakes. You'll fall off track. That's part of it. But discipline doesn't mean you never fall. It means you get back up faster. It means your bounce back is stronger than your breakdown. That resilience, that mental toughness, it all comes from the habits you build day by day. And that's the key. Discipline isn't just a moment. It's a habit. It's a pattern. It's something you create, reinforce, and protect. Think about what your life would look like if you were more disciplined. Really think about it. Waking up on time, eating with purpose, moving your body, working with focus, speaking with honesty, living with intention. That's not just structure, it's freedom. Because discipline gives you back control. You stop drifting, you stop reacting, you start leading, you start making decisions based on your values, not your mood. You stop negotiating with your laziness. You stop tolerating excuses from yourself. You hold yourself to a higher standard. Not because someone else told you to, but because you know you're capable of more. And when you live like that, everything changes. You start building momentum. You start stacking wins. You start becoming someone people respect. Not because you talk about your goals, but because they can see how you carry yourself. You look focused. You sound sharp. You walk with purpose. That's the kind of strength people notice. And you don't get that from talking. You get that from living with discipline. No one's coming to push you every morning. No one's gonna drag you into your greatness. It's on you. And that's a good thing, because that means you have full control. You don't have to wait for a sign. You don't need permission. You just need to start. Start small. Stay consistent. Build from there. Even if nobody notices at first. Even if it feels slow, keep showing up. Keep putting in the reps. One disciplined day at a time, you're building something that can't be taken from you. You're building a version of yourself you'll be proud of. And here's the part most people miss. Discipline doesn't drain your energy. It creates it. When your life is in order, when your days have structure, when you've been doing the right things, you feel alive. You feel focused. You feel calm. That sense of direction, that inner strength, that quiet confidence, it all comes from discipline. It doesn't just help you survive. It helps you thrive. And once you feel that shift, you never want to go back to the old way of living. So stop waiting for life to get easier. Stop waiting for your feelings to catch up. If you want power, if you want peace, if you want to feel proud of yourself again, it starts with how you show up today. Not someday. Not when it's perfect. Now, discipline is the first step. It's the structure that supports everything else. You want to unleash the power within. Build the habit. Do the work. Stay the course. Because that's where the strength really begins. Number 2, you can't live strong with weak standards. If you want to feel powerful in your life, if you want to build real strength, real direction, and real self-respect, you have to set strong standards and actually live by them. You can't live strong if your standards are weak. That's the truth most people avoid. They say they want to level up. They say they want confidence. They say they want to feel proud of themselves. But their daily standards don't match the life they say they want. And you know what happens when there's a gap between your words and your actions? You feel stuck. You feel frustrated. You feel like you're doing something wrong even when you can't explain what it is. That's the cost of weak standards. You can always tell where a person's life is headed by looking at what they tolerate. What you allow becomes your normal. If you constantly let things slide, if you let yourself break your word, skip your plan, stay in toxic patterns, make the same lazy decisions over and over, then you're not building a strong life. You're building a fragile one. A life that looks okay on the surface, but feels empty on the inside. Because deep down, you know you're capable of more. And nothing eats away at your energy faster than knowing you're capable of more and still settling for less. When your standards are low, your effort is inconsistent. When your effort is inconsistent, your results are disappointing. And when your results are disappointing, your self-belief starts to break down. That's when you start questioning yourself. That's when you start feeling like nothing works. But it's not that nothing works. It's that your standards haven't been firm enough to demand more from yourself. And the more you tolerate weakness, the more it becomes your identity. You start saying things like, "I'm just not disciplined," or "I'm not good at staying focused. That's just how I am." But those aren't facts. Those are stories. stories built on weak standards. Strong standards are not about being perfect. They're about drawing a line in your life that you refuse to cross. You decide who you are and how you live, and you protect that decision. You don't wait for the world to set expectations for you. You create your own. You don't compare yourself to the crowd. You build a standard that forces you to rise. That's where real strength comes from. It's not about being better than anyone else. It's about being better than you used to be, stronger than you were last year, sharper than you were last month, more focused than you were yesterday. When you raise your standards, you raise your self-worth. You begin to respect yourself in a new way. You don't just hope things will change, you start making them change. You start waking up with more clarity. You stop making so many excuses. You stop letting other people's bad habits become your own. You don't chase approval anymore, because you're living in a way that already makes you feel proud. That's a powerful place to be. Because once you're proud of how you live, you don't need praise to feel strong. Your own consistency becomes your validation. Everything in your life improves when you strengthen your standards. Your work ethic gets sharper. Your energy feels lighter. Your words carry more weight. Even your relationships change. Because when you start expecting more from yourself, you naturally expect more from the people around you. And not in a controlling way, but in a way that protects your peace. You stop entertaining laziness. You stop accepting one-sided effort. You stop keeping company with people who drain you or pull you backward. Because your time, your energy, and your future mean too much to be thrown away for comfort or old patterns. And yes, when you start raising your standards, you'll lose some things. You'll lose habits that waste your time. You'll lose people who don't want to grow. You'll lose mindsets that kept you small. But what you gain in return is worth far more. You gain clarity. You gain discipline. You gain the strength to say no when it matters, and yes when it counts. You stop surviving life and start building it. Not one day, but every day. And that's the kind of momentum that changes everything. You don't have to change your entire life overnight. You don't have to become someone completely different tomorrow morning. But you do have to start raising the bar for yourself. Start small if you need to. Pick one area where you know your standards have been too low. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your work. Maybe it's your self-talk. And start tightening it up. Decide what you will no longer accept from yourself. Decide what you're ready to hold yourself accountable to. Write it down. Keep it visible. Then act on it. Daily. Not just when it's convenient, but when it's hard. That's when the real growth kicks in. And when the old habits try to creep back in, when you're tempted to break your word, skip your work, lower your effort, you remind yourself of who you're becoming. You remind yourself that weak standards don't belong to the person you're becoming. And little by little, your identity begins to shift. Not because you got lucky, not because everything around you changed, but because you got serious. You stopped negotiating with your potential. You stopped living like time was unlimited. You started living like it mattered. You don't need to talk about it. You don't need to post about it. Just live it. Quiet strength is louder than forced noise. Let your actions speak for you. Let your results build your voice. That's how you gain real respect from yourself, first, then from others. So if you're tired of feeling stuck, tired of starting over, tired of feeling like life keeps slipping through your fingers, it's time to raise your standards. Not next week, not next year. Now, because when you change your standard, you change your behavior. When you change your behavior, you change your results. And when you change your results, you start believing in yourself on a level most people never reach. And that belief, that certainty, that earned confidence, that's what living strong feels like. That's what unleashing the power within really looks like. Number 3, don't run from pain. Learn from it. Pain is part of life, but most people spend all their energy trying to avoid it. They run from it, hide from it, distract themselves from it, and pretend it's not there. But avoiding pain doesn't take it away. It only makes it worse. It builds in the background. It grows stronger in silence. And one day it shows up louder than ever before. The truth is, you can't grow into the person you're meant to be if you keep running from what hurts. The pain you've been trying to escape might actually be the very thing that has the power to shape you, to develop you, to wake you up. Because pain, when you face it head on, can become your greatest teacher. There's something powerful that happens when you stop avoiding and start observing. When you stop numbing and start listening, pain shows you where the problem is. It tells you what needs to change. It exposes the weak areas, the parts of your life, your thinking, your habits, your relationships that are no longer serving you. And that kind of clarity, even though it hurts, is necessary if you're serious about becoming stronger. If everything felt good all the time, you'd never look closer. You'd never ask yourself hard questions. You'd never push for more. It's discomfort that opens your eyes. It's failure that makes you pay attention. It's the low moments that finally make you look in the mirror and say, this has to change. We live in a world that promotes comfort. Avoid the pain, escape the stress, stay entertained. But people forget that comfort doesn't equal happiness. In fact, too much comfort for too long creates the exact opposite. It leaves you restless, empty, weak. Because nothing worth having is built in a place of avoidance. Every breakthrough comes after a period of pain. The pain of being honest with yourself. The pain of discipline. The pain of letting go. The pain of doing the right thing when the easy thing is right there begging you to take it. The people who are truly strong didn't get there because their life was easy. They got there because they used their pain. They learned how to turn setbacks into lessons. They looked at the hard seasons of life and said, I don't like it, but I'm going to learn everything I can from it. That mindset is rare, but it's powerful. Because when you do that, when you turn pain into growth, you become unshakable. You stop being afraid of hard times because you know they're making you stronger. You stop wasting energy wishing things were easier and start using that energy to become better prepared, more focused, more committed. The hardest seasons of your life don't have to break you. They can build you. If you let them, you can come out of struggle with more awareness. You can come out with more patience. You can come out with stronger boundaries. But only if you stop playing the victim and start asking, what is this trying to teach me? That question changes everything. Instead of spiraling, you start studying. Instead of blaming others, you start looking inward. Instead of shutting down, you start showing up. There's something raw and real about the kind of growth that comes from pain. It's not pretty. It's not something people brag about, but it's honest, and you can feel it. When someone has gone through something and they've processed it, and they've used it, you can hear it in the way they speak. You can see it in how they carry themselves. That depth, that wisdom, that presence, it doesn't come from success. It comes from pain that was faced, owned, and transformed. You don't have to like the pain you're in, but you do have to choose how you respond to it. You can let it harden you or humble you. You can let it shut you down or wake you up. The pain is real, yes, but the growth is a choice. You either run from it and let it chase you for years, or you stop, face it, and grow through it now. One path keeps you stuck. The other opens you up. People will do everything to avoid feeling uncomfortable. They scroll, they eat, they drink, they binge, all to avoid sitting in what's real. But real strength is built when you stop escaping, when you turn the volume down on distractions and sit quietly with yourself. What am I running from? What pattern keeps repeating? What truth am I not ready to face? These questions are hard, but they lead you somewhere honest. And once you're honest, now you've got a place to start. Now you've got the real map. Now you know exactly what needs attention, what needs healing, and what needs to be let go. It takes courage to sit with pain, to listen to it, to lean into it. But the rewards are greater than anything comfort could ever give you. You become grounded, clear, strong in your decisions, calm under pressure, because you've already faced worse and you came out better. You learn who you are through pain, not who you pretend to be when things are going well, but who you really are when everything feels like it's falling apart. That's when your values get tested. That's when your standards are revealed. That's when you find out what you really believe. And when you pass that test, even if you pass it slowly, even if you struggle through it, you come out with something real, not just survival, but strength. Quiet, solid strength. You don't have to keep running. You don't have to keep covering it up. Let the pain speak to you. Let it teach you. Let it move you into something deeper. You've been through enough to know that the surface level stuff doesn't last. Real transformation happens when you're willing to look at what hurts, not to dwell in it, but to rise from it. That's the power of pain. Not the pain itself, but what you decide to do with it. So take a deep breath. Stop fighting it. Stop pretending it doesn't affect you. And start learning from it. Start using it. Start asking better questions and giving yourself better answers. Because once you start learning from your pain, you stop being controlled by it. And that's when you truly begin to grow. That's when the change you've been hoping for finally starts to take shape. That's when you stop surviving and start living with strength, direction, and peace. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Number 4, progress builds confidence, and confidence unlocks power. Confidence doesn't come from wishing. It doesn't come from telling yourself that one day you'll be great. It comes from proof. It comes from doing the work and seeing the results. Even if those results are small at first, they count. Every step forward builds momentum. And the more progress you make, the more you start to believe in yourself. Not because someone told you to, not because you read a quote online, but because your actions prove it to you. You feel different when you know you've been doing the right thing. That's where real confidence begins. And once confidence takes hold, something powerful starts to shift. You stop hesitating. You stop questioning yourself so much. You stop shrinking when things get hard. Because now you have evidence. You've seen yourself show up. You've seen yourself make progress. And it changes the way you carry yourself. Most people don't lack potential. They lack movement. They get stuck, waiting for motivation, waiting for the perfect plan, waiting for someone to give them permission. But progress doesn't require perfection. It requires motion. You don't need to run a marathon on your first day. You just need to take a step. That step matters because it breaks the cycle. The cycle of sitting, thinking, doubting, comparing, scrolling, wishing, and doing nothing. The moment you take action, even if it's small, you shift from being a spectator to becoming a participant in your own life. And that's powerful because that shift builds ownership, and ownership builds confidence. You don't need to be loud to be confident. You don't need to show off. Real confidence is quiet. It's built in silence, in effort, in routine. It's built when nobody's watching and you're still putting in the work. It's built when you follow through on your word. Not once, but consistently, confidence is earned. That's why it feels so good, because you know it didn't come from hype. It came from showing up, day after day, even when it was uncomfortable, even when you didn't feel like it. That type of confidence can't be shaken. It's rooted in discipline. It's built on results, and it grows every time you make progress. The biggest mistake people make is thinking they have to make massive progress overnight. And when they don't, they get discouraged. They start thinking maybe they're not good enough. Maybe they're not cut out for this. But what they forget is that progress is never about giant leaps. It's about steady movement. It's about doing better today than you did yesterday, even if it's just 1% better. That's all it takes. Small wins add up, and each one builds another layer of belief. And when you stack enough belief, you become unstoppable. You want to feel powerful. Don't try to fake confidence. Don't try to pretend you're okay when you know deep down you've been letting yourself down. Get honest. Get clear. Then get moving. Start making progress. You can see, track, feel. That's how you regain trust with yourself. That's how you rebuild your mindset. People think confidence is a personality trait. It's not. It's a habit. A reflection of the choices you make every single day. When you choose discipline over excuses, when you choose effort over comfort, when you choose progress over perfection, that's when confidence starts to show up. And here's something people rarely talk about. When you make progress, even if it's small, your energy changes. You start standing taller. You start looking people in the eye. You stop playing small in rooms you used to shrink in. Not because the room changed, but because you did. That's the impact of progress. It doesn't just build skill, it builds identity. You stop seeing yourself as the person who always starts and quits. You stop seeing yourself as the one who's always behind. You become the person who's in motion, who's becoming, who's improving. And that version of you has power. Real power. Confidence is what allows you to step into new spaces, to speak with clarity, to take risks, to push harder, to endure setbacks. But again, it doesn't just show up because you want it to. It comes after progress. That's the formula. Progress builds confidence, and confidence unlocks power. It's simple, but it's not easy, because it requires patience. It requires consistency. It requires effort on the days when excuses feel more comfortable. And most of all, it requires trust. Trust that if you keep showing up, the results will come, and they will. You don't need to figure everything out today, but you do need to move. Take the first step, get the small win, then protect that win. Build on it, track it, let it grow. You'll be surprised how quickly things begin to shift when you start focusing on progress instead of perfection. When you stop measuring yourself against everyone else and start measuring yourself against who you were yesterday. That's how growth works. That's how you start building something solid. There's no secret formula, no magic shortcut. Just you, your habits, your focus, and your decisions. Day in, day out. That's what separates the people who build real power from the ones who stay in the same cycle year after year. The difference isn't talent, it's follow-through. And follow-through starts with movement. So if you're tired of doubting yourself, if you're tired of wondering when things will finally change, don't wait for a sign. Be the one who creates the change. Start making visible progress in one area of your life. One step forward, one improvement, one win. Then do it again. Build that track record with yourself. That's how you stop feeling stuck. That's how you stop playing small. That's how you unlock the version of yourself that's been buried under years of fear, hesitation, and uncertainty. You've got more in you than you've been showing. And the way to bring it out isn't by hoping. It's by building. One decision at a time. One habit at a time. One small piece of progress at a time. And when you look back a month, 6 months, a year from now, you won't just see results. You'll feel a shift in who you are, in how you carry yourself, in how you lead your life. That's what happens when confidence is earned. And once that confidence takes root, the power within you starts to come alive. And when that happens, there's no limit to where you can go next. Number 5. If you don't build inner strength, outer circumstances will defeat you. Strength isn't built when life is going your way. It's built in those moments where nothing's working, when everything feels out of your control, and you have to decide if you're going to keep going or fall apart. That's where it all begins. Most people spend their time trying to fix what's outside of them. The job, the relationship, the schedule, the environment. They think that if they can just get life to calm down, if they can just get everyone to behave, if the world would just stop throwing curveballs, then they'll be fine. But life doesn't work like that. The truth is, life will never stop testing you. The chaos doesn't disappear. The pressure doesn't let up. And if you haven't built real strength inside yourself, you will always be at the mercy of what's happening around you. People who have built inner strength respond to challenges differently. They don't collapse every time something doesn't go as planned. They don't panic when things get stressful. They stay grounded. They stay focused. They've trained for difficulty. They've learned how to be steady when life gets shaky. And that kind of strength doesn't show up by accident. It's built on purpose, through discipline, through honest self-reflection, through commitment to personal growth. When you've done that work, you don't need the world to be perfect anymore. You just need to be prepared, because no matter what hits you, you know you're not going to fold. If you don't build inner strength, you end up reacting to everything. You get tossed around emotionally. One bad comment from someone ruins your whole day. One setback in your plan and you feel like quitting. One piece of bad news and you spiral for weeks. That's what happens when you haven't developed mental and emotional resilience. You become fragile. You depend too much on things outside your control. And the problem with that is, life never guarantees comfort. In fact, the people who end up rising are the ones who decide to get stronger, not the ones who hope life gets easier. Inner strength gives you a foundation. It's what keeps you standing when the ground shakes. It's what helps you make smart decisions when everyone around you is panicking. It's what helps you stay calm under pressure, focused when it's chaotic, disciplined when it's tempting to quit. That kind of strength doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's invisible, but it's there, And when you have it, it changes everything. Because now you're not living in reaction. You're not constantly playing defense. You're leading yourself through life, not just surviving it. There's a moment in everyone's life where they realize that no one is coming to save them. No one is going to build their mindset for them. No one is going to hand them peace, or clarity, or strength. That's your job. That's your responsibility. And the sooner you stop waiting and start building, the sooner you begin to feel that shift. The shift from weakness to strength, from fear to control, from chaos to focus. It's not about pretending to be strong. It's about becoming someone who actually is. Building inner strength doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It doesn't mean you don't have bad days or moments of doubt. It means you don't stay there. It means you know how to pick yourself back up. It means you've trained yourself to keep moving, even when it hurts. You don't drown in emotion. You observe it. You process it. You learn from it. Then you act. That's real strength. The ability to keep going, not because you're numb, but because you've built the capacity to carry it. Some people never take the time to develop that. They keep chasing external validation. They chase money, followers, image, distractions. But all of that can disappear in a moment. And when it does, what's left? If you don't have strength inside you, then nothing outside of you can protect you. But if you've built yourself from the inside out, then you can lose things and still not lose yourself. That's the difference. And that's why inner strength is non-negotiable. If you want to live a solid, meaningful life, this world isn't gentle. There will be disappointments. There will be loss. There will be things that make you question everything. That's just part of being alive. But you don't need a perfect life to be at peace. You need to be built for it. You need to have a mindset that knows how to respond, not just react. A mindset that knows how to slow down when emotions run high. A mindset that doesn't break under pressure, but sharpens under it. And the good news is, that kind of strength can be built. You're not stuck with the way you were raised or the way you used to respond. You can train your mind the same way you train your body, through repetition, through practice, through effort. It starts with small things. Keeping your word to yourself, getting up when you said you would, finishing what you start, speaking with integrity, controlling what you can, and letting go of what you can't. Each time you do one of these things, you build trust with yourself. You build proof that you can handle more than you thought, and that proof becomes confidence. That confidence becomes presence, and that presence becomes power, real power, the kind that doesn't need to be loud. The kind that doesn't crumble under pressure, the kind that walks through the storm and keeps walking. If you've been feeling overwhelmed by life, if you've been letting your circumstances dictate your peace, then this is your wake-up call. Not to feel guilty, not to feel ashamed, but to take your strength seriously. To stop waiting for life to be easier, and to start getting stronger right where you are. Because life isn't gonna slow down, but you can get better. You can become more stable, more focused, more mentally tough. You can become the person who handles the storm, instead of being destroyed by it. And when you do that, you stop living in fear. You stop living in survival mode. You start building a life that's rooted in strength, no matter what's going on around you. This is what separates people who grow from people who stay stuck. It's not luck. It's not timing. It's whether or not you've taken the time to build yourself. Not for the cameras, not for applause, but for you. So you can walk into every room, every situation, every season, knowing that no matter what life throws at you, you're ready. Not because it's easy, but because you've built the strength to handle it. And that strength is what gives you the upper hand in life. Not circumstances, not ease, not perfection, just the discipline to keep becoming someone stronger. Every single day. That's what makes the difference. That's how you take back your power. That's how you stay in control, even when the world is not. Number 6. Don't just live like you mean it. There's something powerful about watching someone who's living like they mean it. You can see it in their eyes. You can feel it in the way they speak, the way they carry themselves, the way they show up every single day. They're not moving through life like it's some kind of accident. They're not going through the motions just to get by. They're intentional. They're awake. They know what they want. And more importantly, they've decided that they're going to go after it. And when you see that kind of energy in someone, it's contagious. You can't fake it. It doesn't come from pretending. It comes from doing the work, from making real decisions, from waking up and saying, this is my life and I'm going to make it count. Too many people are just surviving, breathing, existing, clocking in, scrolling, sitting, drifting, but they're not living. They're not excited. They're not focused. They're not driven by anything that makes them come alive. And it's not because they don't want to be, it's because they've gotten used to playing small. They've convinced themselves that staying comfortable is enough. They've talked themselves out of trying, out of growing, out of caring. And when you stop caring about how you live, everything starts to feel heavy. Days blur together. Energy gets lower. That spark you used to have starts to fade. But the truth is, you were never meant to just get by. You were meant to rise. You were meant to grow. You were meant to show up with energy, purpose, and strength. And you don't find that kind of life by coasting. You find it when you decide that you're done just surviving and that you're ready to live like you mean it. You see, living like you mean it isn't about being busy. It's not about having your schedule packed with things to do. It's about how you show up in every area of your life. It's about intention. If you're working, then work with focus. If you're training, then train with purpose. If you're spending time with someone, then be fully there. Don't just float through your day. Don't waste time thinking you've got forever. You don't, and once you understand that, really understand it, life starts to feel different. You stop wasting it. You stop being careless with it. You stop handing your time and energy over to things that don't build you. That's when life starts to shift. That's when you start to feel real power coming back into your hands. People ask how to get motivated, but motivation isn't what's missing. What's missing is connection. Connection to a reason. Connection to a vision. Connection to a standard that means something. When you're connected to something real, you don't need constant motivation. You start to move with purpose. You show up differently. You speak with more certainty. And you carry yourself like someone who knows they matter. That's what happens when you stop treating life like it's just a list of things to get through and start treating it like a gift. Because that's what it is. Living like you mean it also means you don't waste energy on things that pull you away from your growth. You stop spending your time in rooms that drain you. You stop chasing approval from people who don't even know who they are. You stop waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to go all in. You give yourself permission to go after the things that light you up, that challenge you, that stretch you. And even though that kind of life will ask more of you, it will also give more to you. It will give you energy. It will give you direction. It will give you pride. When you live like you mean it, you're not afraid to raise your standards. You're not afraid to demand more from yourself. You stop saying things like maybe later, or I'll try, or we'll see. You start saying this matters, and I'm committed. That kind of mindset pulls you out of average living. It gets you off autopilot, and it makes every day more meaningful. Not because every day is perfect, but because you're present, you're intentional. You're leading your life instead of letting your life lead you. Some people wait for a big wake-up call before they take their life seriously. They wait until something breaks, until they hit rock bottom, until the pain gets too loud to ignore. But why wait for things to fall apart? Why not decide right now, while you have your strength, while you have your time, while you have your mind, that you're going to live like you mean it, starting today? You don't need a tragedy to remind you that your time is valuable. You just need a decision, a serious, quiet, personal decision, that enough is enough, and that from this point on, how you show up matters. The people who grow, the people who succeed, the people who make something out of their life, they're not waiting for perfect timing. They're just living with purpose. They're clear, they're hungry, they're willing to do the work, and they're not worried about what people think. They're not chasing likes, they're chasing improvement, they're chasing discipline. They're chasing mastery. And that mindset is rare, but it's available to anyone willing to raise their standard and take their life seriously. If you've been coasting, if you've been living like time doesn't matter, it's not too late to change. It's not too late to shift gears, to recommit, to level up. You're not behind. You're not broken. But you do need to be honest. Are you really living like you mean it? Or are you just existing, reacting, repeating old patterns? Be honest with yourself, because honesty is the first step to freedom. When you're real with yourself, you give yourself the power to break through, to reset, to restart, to go all in. You were made for more than routine. You were made for more than low energy, constant distraction, and quiet frustration. You were made to rise, to build, to grow. And that growth doesn't just happen. It starts with how you approach your life. From the moment you wake up, to the way you talk to yourself, to the decisions you make when nobody's watching. All of it matters. All of it adds up. And when you start treating your life like it counts, your life begins to reflect that energy back to you. So if you're ready to stop drifting, if you're ready to stop numbing, if you're ready to stop living like tomorrow is guaranteed, then today is your day. Not to make a huge announcement, not to show off, but to quietly commit to yourself, to your future, to the version of you that's been waiting to come alive. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to start showing up with more presence, more energy, more care, because this is your life, and you only get one of them. Don't just live it like you mean it. And when you do, everything around you will start to change. Not because the world got easier, but because you got stronger, sharper, and more focused on what truly matters. Number 7. Action is the gateway to strength. The reason most people feel stuck isn't because they're broken, lazy, or not smart enough. It's because they haven't taken action. They're sitting in their heads, overthinking, waiting, doubting, planning, hesitating. But thinking about getting stronger is not the same as doing something that makes you stronger. Action is the only path that leads to strength. It's not the idea, it's not the vision board, it's not the wish or the promise, it's what you do. And if you're not doing anything, then you're not building anything. That's the part people don't want to hear, but it's exactly what they need to hear. Nothing changes until you move. When you take action, something begins to shift. It doesn't have to be massive. You don't need to change everything in one day. But the second you take a step, just one real step, you shift your identity. You go from being someone who wants to change to being someone who is becoming different. That alone creates energy. That alone creates momentum. You get out of your own way and stop feeding the loop of doubt. Because you're not just talking anymore. You're not just thinking anymore. You're doing, and action will teach you more in a week than thinking will teach you in a year. The truth is, the strength you're looking for, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual, doesn't show up until you put yourself in motion. It doesn't show up before the action. It shows up when you decide to do the workout, even though you're tired. When you sit down to work, even though you're distracted. When you tell the truth, even though you're scared. That's the moment strength starts building. And it doesn't feel magical. It feels like effort. It feels like pushing. It feels like doing the thing you didn't want to do. But that's where it grows. It grows when you act, not when you wait. The mistake most people make is thinking that they need to feel confident or prepared before they take action. That's backwards. You gain confidence from action. You gain clarity through effort. You don't need to have it all figured out to start. You just need to start. Every time you take action, you chip away at fear. You silence the doubt. You show yourself that you're capable. You train your mind to trust you. And that trust is priceless. Because once you trust yourself to act, even when it's uncomfortable, your life becomes less about fear and more about growth. It's not that successful people don't feel fear. It's that they don't let it stop them from acting. They feel the same resistance, the same uncertainty, but they've trained themselves to move anyway. That's the difference. They know that strength doesn't come from waiting until it's easy. It comes from doing what's hard and doing it again and doing it again until it becomes a part of who they are. And once it's a part of you, once action becomes your habit, you don't need hype. You don't need someone to constantly push you. You push yourself because you've seen what happens when you move, and you've felt what happens when you don't. Sitting still when you know you should act creates guilt. It creates regret. It creates tension inside. That's the emotional price of inaction. And that price keeps adding up the longer you stay stuck, the longer you overthink, the longer you keep saying, "I'll start tomorrow." But when you act, you interrupt that pattern. You replace guilt with pride. You replace regret with momentum. You start to feel strong again, not because everything is perfect, but because you're finally doing something about it. Some days the action will feel heavy. It will feel like work, but that's where the reward is. When you do the thing you said you'd do, especially when you don't feel like it, that's when you start to earn your own respect. That's when you build discipline. That's when the excuses stop sounding so convincing. You don't become strong by talking about how hard life is. You become strong by moving through it, one step at a time, no matter how messy, no matter how slow. And if you're worried about failing, understand this: failure is not the enemy. Inaction is. You can learn from failure. You can adapt, grow, pivot, but you can't grow from sitting still. You can't evolve by hiding. You can't unlock your potential by wishing it would show up. You've got to earn it. You've got to sweat for it. You've got to step into discomfort again and again until it becomes familiar. That's how strong people are made. Not in silence, not in safety, but in action. So many people are sitting on greatness. They've got gifts, ideas, talent, but they're stuck because they're waiting for perfect timing, waiting for the right energy, waiting for someone to notice them. And while they wait, time slips by. Opportunities pass. Confidence fades. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can reclaim your momentum by choosing to act. Right now, no matter how small the step, it matters. Because each step forward is a vote for the version of you that's tired of waiting and ready to grow. When you act, you create options. You open doors. You get feedback. You discover what works and what doesn't. And over time, you start to build a rhythm. And in that rhythm, you build strength. And in that strength, you find peace. Not because life is easy, but because you know you're not hiding anymore. You know you're moving. You know you're becoming. If you've been in your head too long, if you've been paralyzed by doubt or fear or overthinking, this is your moment. Not to figure everything out, but to move. To do the next thing you know you need to do. Send the message. Finish the task. Start the workout. Apply for the opportunity. Have the hard conversation. Take the action. Because every time you act, you grow. Every time you act, you rise. And every time you act, you build the strength that the next version of your life is going to require. Stop waiting. Start building. Because strength isn't something you find. It's something you build through action. And once you realize that, once you make action a daily habit, there's no limit to how strong you can become. Not because it's easy, but because now you're moving. And once you're in motion, everything changes. One decision at a time, one step at a time. That's how it begins. And that's how you take back control of your life, through action. Always through action. Number 8. Every excuse you use is a lock on your own potential. The reason most people stay exactly where they are in life is not because they lack intelligence or talent. It's not because they don't have potential or access or time. It's because they've convinced themselves that the excuses they've been using are valid. They've repeated them so many times that those excuses sound like facts. I don't have time. I'm not ready. I don't know enough. I've failed too many times. I'm too tired. I'm not the type. I've got too much going on. These are not reasons. These are locks. Each one you repeat closes the door a little tighter on your own growth. And the longer you hold on to them, the heavier they become, the more natural they start to feel. But deep down, you know they're holding you back. You feel it. And that feeling, that frustration you carry, it comes from knowing that something in you is being buried under layers of stories you keep telling yourself. Excuses feel safe. That's why we use them. They take the pressure off. They let us off the hook. They make it easier to stay comfortable. But what we fail to see is that every excuse we accept today becomes a limitation we carry tomorrow. You use it to protect yourself from temporary effort or discomfort, but in doing that, you build a life that never goes anywhere. You build a mindset that can't grow. And over time, your excuses don't just block opportunities. They start to shape your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who takes action and start seeing yourself as someone who just tries to survive. That's the trap. That's how potential gets buried. When you strip away the excuses, you're left with the truth. And sometimes that truth is hard to face. Maybe you haven't been consistent. Maybe you haven't been doing the work. Maybe you've let fear talk you out of trying. But here's the beautiful part. Once you stop lying to yourself, even gently, you get your power back. You start telling the truth. And the truth brings clarity. Because you can't change what you don't acknowledge. If you keep saying it's someone else's fault, or it's the timing, or it's the stress, or it's the season, you're not leading your life. You're reacting to it. Nobody wants to feel like they've wasted time. Nobody wants to feel behind. So we tell ourselves whatever we need to hear to avoid the guilt. But avoiding guilt doesn't build confidence. It just delays growth. The people who rise, the ones who transform, the ones who surprise everyone, they're not perfect. They just got tired of the stories. They stopped excusing the laziness. They stopped justifying the procrastination. They stopped telling themselves they had to wait for the right moment. They started moving, and movement exposed the lies. Because once you start doing the work, you realize most of those excuses never had any weight. They were just habits. Habits of avoidance, of fear, of playing small. Every time you use an excuse, you're reinforcing a belief about yourself. You're saying, I can't handle this, or I don't have what it takes, or this is too hard for me. And every time you say it, your brain starts to accept it. Your confidence drops, your energy fades, and then you don't even try. Not because you actually can't, but because you've convinced yourself that effort would be a waste. And that's how excuses rob you. They don't just steal action. They steal the belief that action is even worth taking. And that is one of the greatest losses anyone can experience. It's not that you're weak. It's that you've let too many small lies stack up. Lies that sounded like truth because you were tired or hurt or disappointed. But strength comes from waking up and choosing honesty. Real honesty. The kind that says, I've been getting in my own way. I've been choosing comfort over growth. I've been running from the hard stuff. And it's time to stop. That moment, that decision, is when your life begins to shift. Not dramatically at first, but slowly, silently, powerfully. And yes, growth is uncomfortable. Yes, it takes effort. But so does staying stuck. So does living a life where you never feel proud. So does carrying around the guilt of potential you never touched. You think the work is hard. Try waking up every day knowing you're not even trying. That's harder. That eats at your confidence in a way no challenge ever will. The reality is, there is no perfect timing. There's no flawless starting point. You will never feel fully ready. You will always have reasons to wait. That's what makes the decision powerful. That's what makes the action meaningful. Because you did it even with the excuses swirling. You did it before you felt like it. That's when it counts. That's when it becomes real. And when you do that once, and then again and again, you start to break the pattern. You start to see that the excuses were just noise. Not truth. Just noise. And with every action you take, the noise gets quieter. Nobody ever looks back at their life and feels proud of the excuses they made. But they do remember the moments they pushed through, the days they showed up, the times they didn't give in to the easy way out. That's the stuff that builds a strong identity. That's the stuff that builds self-respect. And self-respect is worth far more than temporary comfort. So if you've been sitting on an excuse, if there's something in your life that you know needs attention, if you've been telling yourself a story that lets you off the hook, this is your invitation to break the pattern. Not because it's easy, but because you're ready. Ready to stop living below your potential. Ready to stop putting off the life you actually want. Ready to start building something real. Something that makes you feel alive again. Every excuse is a lock, but every honest action is a key. You don't need a master plan. You just need one moment of truth, one shift, one action, and then another. Stack those and watch what happens. Your life won't change overnight, but your energy will, your mindset will, and slowly your world will follow. Not because you got lucky, but because you stopped locking yourself out of your own potential. You stopped feeding the lie, and you started acting like your future matters. Because it does. And so do you. Number 9. Stop wishing. Start building. You don't need another motivational video. You don't need another quote. You don't need another post telling you that anything is possible. What you need is to stop wishing and start building. Because let's be honest, wishing is easy. You can sit on your couch and wish. You can scroll on your phone and wish. You can do absolutely nothing and wish for everything to change. But nothing changes when you wish. Change happens when you build. Progress happens when you take what you have right now and start using it. No more waiting for the perfect moment. No more hoping something just falls into place. No more dreaming without doing. The reason most people stay stuck isn't because they don't want it. It's because they keep living in this mental loop of someday. Someday I'll start working out. Someday I'll get serious. Someday I'll stop procrastinating. And while they're waiting for someday, the days keep slipping. They wake up, and it's been months. It's been years. And the gap between what they want and where they are just keeps getting bigger. Not because they don't have the potential, but because they never switched from wish mode to build mode. Wishing gives you comfort without responsibility. That's why people get addicted to it. It gives you the illusion of progress without the price. You can sit around and say, one day I'll have a better life, and it feels good for a second. But deep down, you know you're lying to yourself, because nothing's being done. Nothing's changing. It's just mental entertainment. Wishing without action is just fantasy. And if you live in fantasy too long, reality starts to fall apart. Your self-belief fades. Your energy drops. You start feeling disconnected from your own goals, not because they're impossible, but because you haven't built anything that brings them closer. Building is different. Building takes effort. It takes time. It takes doing the boring, the difficult, the repetitive. It takes showing up, even when you don't feel like it. And that's exactly why it works. Because every time you build, you create structure, you create direction, you create motion, and motion builds confidence. When you're building something, even slowly, even awkwardly, even in private, you feel better. Because now you're not hoping for change. You are the change. You don't need all the answers. You don't need to know how it all ends. You just need to get started. That's what people forget. They wait for certainty before they act. But action brings clarity. The doing reveals the path. You learn as you go. You figure things out while you're in it, not before it. And that's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it real. You look back and realize it wasn't one giant leap that changed your life. It was all the small things you built every day, even when nobody saw it. Look around at your life right now. The results you see, the habits you have, the standards you live by, they're all the outcome of what you've built. And if it's not what you want, you can start changing it today. Not by wishing it was different, but by taking one piece and starting to upgrade it. If it's your health, build better routines. If it's your mindset, build better thoughts. If it's your work ethic, build better systems. No one's going to hand it to you, but you have the tools, you have the time, you have the choice. Most people think building means doing something big and dramatic, but that's not true. Real builders know the secret is in consistency. It's in small, daily efforts that seem like nothing at the time, but turn into something unshakable, over weeks, over months, over years. You want to change your life, stop talking about it, and start laying bricks. One by one, quietly, consistently. Because those bricks become walls. Those walls become rooms. Those rooms become a foundation you can stand on. You'll feel resistance. That's normal. The mind will try to pull you back into old habits, into old excuses, into old stories. But the moment you realize that those are just signals of growth, you push through. You don't argue with the resistance. You outwork it. You outlast it. Because the goal isn't to feel comfortable. The goal is to feel capable. And capability comes from action, not intention. Wishing is for the version of you that wants comfort. Building is for the version of you that wants power. And at some point, you have to pick. You can't live both lives. You can't keep saying, I want to change, and then keep doing the same things that are keeping you stuck. You've got to move. You've got to decide, even if you start small, even if it's messy, even if it's not perfect. Just start. The results will come, but only if you do. And here's the thing, you don't need to build in public. You don't need to tell everyone. You don't need applause. All you need is the internal decision to stop wishing and start working, quietly, relentlessly. Because that's where strength is built. That's where pride is built. That's where your future begins. So take a deep breath. Get honest about what you've been avoiding. Get clear about what you need to build. And then get to work. No more waiting for the right moment. This is the moment. This is the time. And if you make it count, everything else will begin to shift. Not because you're lucky, but because you finally stopped wishing and started building. Number 10. You're capable of far more than you're demonstrating. The truth is, most people have no idea what they're actually capable of. They've settled for a version of themselves that's far below what's possible. They've bought into this idea that they're doing enough just because they're getting by. But let me be real with you. Getting by is not the same as growing. Surviving is not the same as thriving. Deep down, you know it too. You feel it when your head hits the pillow at night. You feel it when you look in the mirror and wonder where the fire went. You know you've got more in you. More strength, more focus, more potential. But instead of tapping into it, you've been holding back, playing safe, moving through life like it's some kind of rehearsal. It's not. This is it. And if you're not giving it everything you've got, then you're leaving so much on the table. There's this quiet frustration that builds when you know you're not showing up fully. You go through the motions. You get things done, but you also avoid the hard stuff. You procrastinate on the things that actually matter. You keep telling yourself you'll get serious later. And maybe it doesn't show on the outside, but you feel it. That voice in the back of your mind that keeps saying, you're meant for more than this. And it's not wrong. Because the version of you that's out there grinding, training, learning, sacrificing, pushing, that version hasn't even fully been activated yet. It's there. It's ready. But it needs you to stop playing small. You weren't built to just do the minimum. You weren't designed to be average. There's something in you that wants to break through the noise, the comfort, the distractions. But it's been buried under bad habits, low energy, excuses, and fear. And the longer you stay in that space, the easier it is to forget who you could become. But I'm telling you now, you can change the direction of your life. Not in a year, not in a month. Today, right now, the moment you stop settling for what's easy and start leaning into what's possible, you start to uncover a level of drive and discipline you didn't even know existed. See, you don't need more time. You need more urgency. You don't need more motivation. You need more commitment. You don't need another chance. You need to finally take advantage of the one you've already got. And the way to do that is to raise your standard. The way you eat, the way you speak, the way you work, the way you carry yourself. It all matters, every detail. Because every small improvement compounds into something powerful. But none of that starts unless you're honest with yourself. Are you really giving it everything? Or are you just doing enough to feel busy? If you keep waiting to feel ready, you'll be stuck in that same cycle another year from now. Still talking about what you could do. Still dreaming about who you could become. Still getting frustrated, wondering why nothing's changing. But the change starts with a decision. Not a dramatic one. A quiet one. A personal one. Where you finally say, I'm not living below my potential anymore. And that decision leads to action. And that action leads to progress. And that progress leads to confidence. And that confidence brings power. Real power. Most people want to feel confident before they act. But the truth is, confidence only comes after you take action. It comes after you face discomfort. After you do the thing you didn't think you could do. And the more you do that, the more you start to see what you're really made of. That's where your potential lies. It's not sitting on the sidelines. It's buried in the work you've been avoiding. It's hidden in the discomfort you've been running from. But if you face it, if you lean into it, you unlock parts of yourself that have been asleep for far too long. The future you want isn't waiting for you to have everything figured out. It's waiting for you to start showing up with more intensity, more purpose, more hunger. And that's not something you wait for. That's something you create, day by day, choice by choice. You've got more in you than you're showing, and it's time to stop playing it safe. It's time to stop performing at half your capacity just because it's comfortable. Comfort won't change your life. Growth will. But growth demands more from you. And that's exactly why it works. If you really want to see how far you can go, you've got to challenge yourself. You've got to stop protecting your weaknesses and start developing your strengths. You've got to stop entertaining thoughts that tell you to slow down, give up, or settle. Because the moment you stop listening to the noise and start taking full ownership, you take control. And that control is where your breakthrough begins. Not because it gets easier, but because you get stronger. You are capable of far more than you're demonstrating right now. And that's not an insult. It's a reminder. It's a wake-up call. You don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to keep wondering what could have happened if you had just gone all in. You can choose today to turn the page. You can build the habits, raise the standard, do the work, and become the person you were always meant to be. Not in theory, in action, every single day. So if you've been waiting for the right time, if you've been doubting whether or not you have what it takes, let this be the moment you stop waiting and start doing. Not to prove anything to the world, but to prove something to yourself. That you're not done growing, that you haven't peaked, that the best of you hasn't even been seen yet, because it hasn't. And when you finally decide to rise, to push past the resistance, to lean into the effort, you'll see just how powerful you really are. Now you know there's more in you than what you've been showing. And the only thing standing between who you are and who you can become is what you choose to do next. You don't need to wait for perfect timing. You don't need more motivation. What you need is to take full responsibility, set a new standard, and start showing up with strength, with purpose, and with commitment. The truth is, the power you're looking for isn't somewhere out there. It's already inside you. You've just got to stop doubting it and start using it. Build the habits. Follow through on your word. Keep doing what you said you would do, especially when it's not easy. That's how confidence grows. That's how progress starts. That's how your entire life shifts. If this message spoke to you, don't just leave it here. Take one thing from it, just one, and act on it today. Make it real, because the change you're chasing doesn't happen someday. It happens the moment you stop making excuses and start becoming the person you were meant to be. And if you found value in this, share it with someone who needs to hear it too. Because real change spreads. It starts with you, and it can impact everyone around you. Now go do the work. Your future is watching. Make it proud.